Bitcoin is back and it just reached its highest price per coin in well over 5 months. You're probably wondering though, how can that possibly be? I mean, didn't China just ban cryptocurrency and a bunch of companies just come out stating they will have nothing to do with crypto in general? This is true. You've probably heard a ton of reports lately about the environmental effects of Bitcoin and how a bunch of investors think that the crypto market is going to crash. But this is just the kind of storm that creates a crypto boom, and if you understand crypto, then you know that this is something that happens quite often. So today I want to talk all about this new crypto boom, specifically Bitcoin, and what that means for you and your wallet. We're going to be diving into exactly why Bitcoin is booming right now, and if this boom will continue in the future. So if you love cryptocurrency, make sure to stick around till the very end of this video, because we're going to be talking everything cryptocurrency from past, present, and future. But before we break down all things crypto, I need you to do me a quick favor and smash that thumbs up button below and hit that notification bell too. That way we can continue making great videos just like this one. Bitcoin is booming again. And it's pretty crazy to see how it's grown just in the past few weeks after some pretty negative things happened to the market. Over the summer, you saw a ton of businesses go back on their claims that they would start accepting Bitcoin as acceptable payments. The main reason for this is due to mining and the environmental effects that mining has on the world in general. This is quite a swing too, because companies at the start of the year were so accepting of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Like Tesla, for instance, wanted to accept Bitcoin as a viable payment option for all of its vehicles. Elon Musk is a big believer in cryptocurrency, and he also pushed other cryptos like Doge. And now that Bitcoin is booming again, I want to take a look at the last boom that Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies had and try to compare it to what's going on today. That'll help us to understand exactly what's going on in this new boom and if it will last, because I think the situation is very much similar. At the start of 2020, one Bitcoin was worth around $7,000, give or take a few $100s from there. But now in 2021, as of recording this video, one Bitcoin is now valued at around $55,000. That's a pretty big jump. But if you take a little bit of a closer look, you'll see that Bitcoin did not have the Cinderella story that it may seem. I mean, Bitcoin went through a ton of booms, but it also had a ton of busts. And to understand some of these booms and busts, you kind of have to understand what cryptocurrency is and why people are so drawn to it. I mean, cryptocurrency is seen as an alternative investment. So you can invest in things like stocks and real estate, but there's other things to invest in too. You invest in some other things too, like gold and now Bitcoin. The idea of cryptocurrency has been around for a while now. Back in the 80s and 90s, we had your first kind of digital payment systems coming around that would be completely anonymous and untraceable. This way people could buy things and the bank would only know about the money that needs to come out. In other words, there weren't any receipts. But in 2009, Bitcoin was created and it was kind of a way to amplify what was already there. So now you could buy things with this new digital currency that would allow you to use it all over the world. And that's one of the biggest benefits that investors see with Bitcoin. Bitcoin can be used all over the globe, so you don't need to exchange it before buying something. Versus if you have a US dollar and you want to use it in another country, say Spain, you'll have to exchange it for a euro. That's the payment system that they use over there. But if it's a digital payment, then you can just use Bitcoin. That company allows it as an acceptable transaction. And likewise, if investors are scared about what's happening on Wall Street or scared about the value of the dollar, they're going to want to invest in other things. This is why during a crash, you'll hear a ton of investors talk about investing in gold and now invest in Bitcoin. This is one of the major reasons why there was such a big boom in Bitcoin last year. I mean, the price of Bitcoin went from $7,000 to almost $20,000 in just a few months. Investors want to protect themselves from a crashing stock market, so they invest in alternative means that are still going to gain value while the rest of their assets are losing value. The price of gold typically goes up during a stock market crash, and now Bitcoin, seen as the digital gold, may also go up during a crash. Like I said before, investors want to protect themselves when the dollar loses value or their other investments start to lose value. This is called hedging against a crash. You're basically building something, or investing in this case, into something that is going to protect your assets behind the hedge. And furthermore, when we saw markets crash in 2020, investors turned to something that was going to have universal value. Bitcoin is something that can be used all around the world, so investors were naturally drawn to it. And by the end of 2020 into 2021, Bitcoin was soaring, and it even hit a record high of around $65,000 per coin. Like I said, this was the initial boom for crypto and other cryptocurrencies. But this boom did not last forever, and by about February and March of 2021, Bitcoin began to slide. One of the potential reasons for this is because that the stock market was starting to level out, so people were beginning to have a little bit more confidence in what was going on Wall Street. This meant that they did not need as much Bitcoin and ultimately sold a lot of their holdings to buy stocks on Wall Street. You can see that was connected to our economy as well, because a ton of reports came out that our economy was starting to grow again, much faster than expected. And the boom was so big for Bitcoin that you even saw a ton of banks and companies willing to accept it as a viable payment option, and banks would now let you store your crypto. That ultimately led Bitcoin to have a $1 trillion market cap. That means the total values of all Bitcoins on the market equaled $1 trillion plus. But while Bitcoin was booming and starting to slow down, it suddenly crashed by about April of this year. So what caused that crash? Well, news broke that cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin were using a ton of energy to not only store but to create coins themselves. This is done through a process called mining, and when you mine a coin, you use a ton of energy consumption that is sometimes equal to small countries. In fact, Bitcoin mining measures around the world uses around 0.5% of all of the electricity on the planet. That's a lot of energy. And when Bitcoin was booming, a ton of companies and people tied their name to the cryptocurrency. But as this news came out that cryptos were actually hurting the environment a ton, a lot of companies went back on their word and would immediately stop allowing people to buy products with crypto. Even the Doge King himself, Elon Musk, went back on his word, stating that Tesla would no longer allow consumers to buy its vehicles with cryptocurrency. He's still a big advocate for the crypto space and has been working with some of these developers on how to make Bitcoins and other cryptocurrencies more sustainable. But they haven't figured that out yet for a ton of cryptocurrencies. Now, it's important to mention here that not every cryptocurrency uses as much energy as Bitcoin does to actually mine it. Some cryptos around the world are using completely renewable energy like solar to create coins. But as of right now, the value and the demand for those coins is pretty low. So developments have been pretty slim and few and far between. And then as Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies were crashing, there were some stirrings and rumors that some governments around the world would begin to regulate the cryptocurrency market. Lack of regulation is one of the key reasons that some investors like Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies so much. Traditional currencies are controlled by governments. Bitcoin, on the other hand, does not have a central government. It is known as a decentralized currency. That means all of the power behind it goes to the investors, the miners, and anyone that holds crypto. It also means that just about anyone has a say in which way the crypto market goes. So when Janet Yellen, the Secretary of the Treasury in the United States, mentioned just a few months ago that the Treasury and SEC were thinking and experimenting with ideas on how to regulate the crypto market, things began to crash even more. And that leads us all the way to September 2021, where China actually took a massive step and banned cryptocurrencies all throughout the country. That means that miners could no longer mine the coin within China, and nobody could actually trade or buy crypto. That includes Bitcoin. I broke down this entire China crypto ban, the history of crypto in China, and what might be coming for it in the future. So if you're interested in watching that video, I'll leave a link to it in the description below. This meant that nobody could interact with cryptocurrencies within China. Nearly 50% of all Bitcoins that are mined around the world are mined within China. This meant that miners had to immediately leave the country if they wanted to continue mining Bitcoin, and if they didn't leave the country, China is now looking for anybody that is working in the crypto market space. And you'd think a move like this would immediately begin to tank the price of Bitcoin, but actually the price did quite the opposite. It was pretty flat for a little while, but there have been some other governments around the world that have been completely accepting to Bitcoin. For instance, El Salvador was one of the first major countries around the world to accept Bitcoin and make it a viable payment option within the entire country itself. Bitcoin is now a completely useful currency within El Salvador. Part of the reason for this is that there's still a ton of countries out there that basically have an unregulated crypto market, within their borders. And a lot of experts in the cryptocurrency space pretty much saw this China crypto ban coming for a long time. I mean, China has not been very accepting to the crypto space since Bitcoin came around in 2009. The country has been slowly banning it for a long time now. There are a lot of different reasons for this, but I want to jump ahead to what exactly is going on with the crypto markets today. Why is crypto in such a boom all of a sudden right now? As of recording this video, one of the biggest reasons why Bitcoin is booming right now is because that the US government has no plans on banning crypto or regulating the crypto market any further than it already has. This is big news because people immediately turned to the United States after this big China crypto ban, and they were awaiting their response to see what exactly they would do with cryptocurrencies. And the response was pretty much no response. In addition, we also saw a struggling stock market back in September. So again, as people turn away from the stock market, they want to protect their money and invest in things that are going to be universally valued. Things like gold and Bitcoin, and this is just one of the many reasons why we've seen Bitcoin boom in October. And it's not just the stock market. The US dollar might take a huge hit sometime soon because the US government may default on some of its loans. If the US government goes into default, it will no longer be able to pay its bills. This will hurt a ton of companies and a ton of investors on Wall Street that have money tied up in bonds. So investors are getting a bit worried. Like I said, the US government has hit its debt ceiling, which means it's borrowed the max amount that Congress will allow. So if Congress does not raise the debt ceiling by October 18th, the US government will go into default. It's pretty clear that eventually the United States government will raise this debt ceiling to a new amount, or it will have to work out some kind of workaround for this debt crisis. But in the meantime, a lot of people are turning to alternative investments like gold and Bitcoin. Because even if the United States government crashes and the dollar loses value, Bitcoin will still remain valuable. October 18th is still a few weeks away now. But as long as there is uncertainty in the US dollar and uncertainty with the US government, Bitcoin may continue to boom. If this boom continues into 2022, it's still way too early to see. I mean, it really comes down to how much Bitcoin is adopted around the world and if this environmental crisis with Bitcoin is solved sometime soon. Key thing to note here is that Bitcoin has no inherent value. I mean, it's only valuable because people say it's valuable and have confidence in using it. But if that confidence in being used is completely stripped away, then you may see a Bitcoin crash and you may see other cryptocurrencies crash as well. And just about everything in the United States is regulated and then taxed. So it's not crazy to think that Uncle Sam might want his cut too. Not much has been said on this issue yet, but as cryptos begin to grow and as Bitcoin continues to grow, governments are going to have to face either deciding not to regulate or to regulate these markets, just like they do with the stock market and other investments. But as of right now, cryptocurrency and Bitcoin specifically serve kind of an interesting role in our society. Bitcoin can be used as a commodity like gold and silver and as a currency like the dollar. And with more and more countries and companies accepting Bitcoin as a viable payment option, you're going to see a ton of interest within those coins. And as we've learned from 2020 till now, anything can pretty much happen. I mean, nobody knew a global pandemic was coming, but here we are. So uncertainty may continue to fuel Bitcoin and we may see more booms like this in the future. But nothing is set in stone yet, and as long as the US government has no interest in regulating cryptocurrencies or pretty much stepping foot into that space, a lot of investors are going to want to put their money into Bitcoin. Bitcoin changes like crazy. I mean, nobody knows what's going to happen in the crypto market tomorrow, let alone 5 years from now. So as governments continue to work with it and people get more exposure to it, there's going to be some big changes. And we'll be watching all of those changes and we'll be sure to update you on anything that goes on in the crypto space. But now I want to hear from you in regards to Bitcoin. Do you think this boom will continue to last through the rest of the year, or do you think it'll fizzle out by the start of 2022? In addition, do you think more cryptocurrency regulation is coming, or do you think governments around the world want to stay far away from the crypto market? Whatever your thoughts are, leave a comment below before you go. But that is it for today's business and financial news breakdown. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button before you go. Keep hustling, money minds, and I'll see you all in the next one.